Title: Travis Kelce in tears after Taylor Swift's wedding promise, **. The Kansas City Chiefs had just won another game, and Travis Kelce was glowing. Taylor Swift, his superstar girlfriend, had been cheering him on from the stands. As the couple headed home that evening, a sense of warmth and contentment surrounded them. But little did Travis know, a storm was brewing, a storm that would test the strength of their love. The promise. Taylor had been dropping subtle hints over the past few months about her future. During a quiet dinner, she finally opened up. "Trav, I've been thinking a lot about what comes next for us," she began, her voice soft but steady. Travis leaned in, his eyes full of love. "Me too, Tay, you're my everything. Let's build a future together." Taylor hesitated before continuing. "I've always dreamed of a wedding, something magical. But I made a promise to myself years ago that I wouldn't walk down the aisle until I've accomplished a very specific goal." Travis's brow furrowed. "What goal, babe? You've already done it all. Grammys, stadium tours, inspiring millions." Taylor took a deep breath. "I've always wanted to win Album of the Year at the Grammys 5 times before I get married. It's a milestone I've set for myself as an artist. And I'm still one short." The realization. The words hit Travis like a ton of bricks. He knew Taylor's career was everything to her, but he hadn't realized how much this goal meant. He tried to stay composed, but his heart sank. He had been planning to propose at the end of the season, imagining a whirlwind engagement leading to a wedding soon after. "But Tay," he said, his voice cracking, "we love each other. Isn't that enough? We don't need some award to validate us." Taylor reached out, cupping his face in her hands. "It's not about validation, Trav. It's about fulfilling a promise to myself. I want to be the best version of me before I take on the biggest role of my life, being your wife." The tears. That night, as Taylor fell asleep beside him, Travis lay awake. His chest felt heavy, and tears welled up in his eyes. He had always been a pillar of strength on and off the field, but now, he felt powerless. He quietly slipped out of bed and went to the balcony, staring at the city lights. The thought of waiting, possibly years, for Taylor to achieve her goal filled him with doubt. What if her career kept pushing their love aside? What if they never got to the wedding? In that moment, Travis broke down, tears streaming down his face. The man known for his toughness felt vulnerable and unsure. The support. The next morning, Taylor found him in the kitchen, his eyes puffy. She wrapped her arms around him, sensing his pain. "Trav, I know this isn't what you wanted to hear," she whispered. "But I promise you, I'm not putting us on hold. I'm just asking for a little more time." Travis pulled her into a tight embrace. "I'll wait for you, Taylor. No matter how long it takes. But please, don't forget that I'm here, cheering for you every step of the way." The future. As the months passed, Travis threw himself into his football career, using his love for Taylor as motivation. Taylor, in turn, poured her soul into her next album, determined to earn that 5th Grammy. Their journey wasn't easy, but it was filled with mutual respect and unwavering support. And though the promise lingered over them, it became a symbol of their shared determination, a reminder that love could endure even the hardest of trials. One day, Taylor would achieve her dream, and when she did, Travis knew their wedding would be worth every tear he had shed along the way. Title: Travis Kelce in tears after Taylor Swift's wedding promise. It was a quiet evening in Kansas City, the air crisp with the early signs of fall, as Travis Kelce walked through the dimly lit corridors of his home. The glow of a single lamp cast long shadows on the walls, and the silence was broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves outside. Travis had just come from a meeting with his agent, but his mind was elsewhere. His thoughts kept returning to the woman he loved, Taylor Swift. The journey from playful flirtations to their whirlwind romance had been nothing short of magical, but now, standing on the brink of a new chapter, Travis couldn't shake the sense of uncertainty that clung to him. His heart raced as he recalled the moment earlier that day, the one that changed everything. Taylor had invited him to meet her in a small, secluded garden behind her home in Nashville. It was their secret place, where they could escape from the noise of the world. There, in the soft glow of twilight, Taylor had turned to him with tears in her eyes and whispered, "Travis, I love you more than anything. And one day, I'll be yours forever. I promise." It wasn't the promise of a wedding, no, it was something more profound. It was the promise of a future, a shared life, and love that could weather anything. Travis had never seen her so vulnerable, so sure of her feelings. But as she spoke those words, something stirred deep inside him, a fear he couldn't explain. What if he wasn't enough for her? What if the spotlight, the pressure, and the world they lived in would be too much? Later that evening, as they stood together, Taylor's arms wrapped around his waist, Travis felt his emotions start to surge. He had been the strong one, the confident athlete, the entertainer, but in that moment, he felt as if he were about to crumble. The weight of her promise pressed on his chest like a heavy stone. "I don't deserve you," he muttered, more to himself than to her. She pulled away slightly, cupping his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her gaze. "You do, Travis. You always have. I chose you because I believe in us." But even as her words filled him with warmth, the tears threatened to spill. Travis fought them, blinking rapidly, but the floodgates broke open. Taylor's steady, loving gaze never wavered as he wiped at his eyes with a shaky hand. "You're everything to me," he said between gasps, his voice breaking with raw emotion. "But I'm scared of not being the man you need me to be." Taylor smiled softly, brushing his tears away with a gentle finger. "You're already the man I need," she said, her voice like a soothing balm. "You just have to believe that." But for Travis, it wasn't enough to hear it. He needed to feel it, to be sure. The idea of living up to her promises, the expectation of becoming a perfect match, not just for her, but for the world, was suffocating. As the tears slowly stopped, Taylor took his hand and led him to a bench in the garden. They sat together in silence, the promise of forever hanging between them, untouchable yet undeniable. In that moment, Travis understood that love wasn't just about grand gestures or promises made in the heat of the moment. It was about vulnerability, about being willing to fall apart and still trust that the other person would catch you. Taylor's promise wasn't just about the future, it was about the present, the willingness to face the unknown together. And as the night stretched on, Travis Kelce, tears still fresh on his cheeks, finally felt the full weight of the promise he had made to her, and the one she had made to him. In that garden, under the stars, he knew one thing for sure. He was ready to take the leap. Title: Travis Kelce's Tears, The Wedding Promise. It was a cool autumn evening in Kansas City, the air filled with the scent of pine and freshly fallen leaves. Travis Kelce stood by the window in his private mansion, gazing out at the sprawling skyline, his heart pounding. He could hear the soft sounds of the city, but all he could focus on was the memory of the day that had just passed. Earlier, he'd stood at the altar, waiting for her. Taylor Swift, the love of his life, the woman who had turned his world upside down. She had looked stunning in her vintage-inspired wedding gown, her eyes sparkling with an emotion he could barely comprehend. But as he waited, something inside him began to unravel. The wedding had been perfect, every detail meticulously planned, every moment captured in the most intimate way. But it wasn't the extravagance or the fairy tale atmosphere that stayed with him. It was the moment when Taylor had taken his hand, standing before their loved ones and sharing something she hadn't said before. "Travis," she had whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "I promise you, this is not just a wedding. This is the beginning of forever." As the words left her lips, Travis felt a lump form in his throat. He had always believed in love, but never had he truly understood what it meant to be promised something so profound, something so boundless. That evening, as they danced their first dance as a married couple, Travis couldn't hold back the tears any longer. He wasn't sure if it was the weight of the vows, the beauty of the moment, or the raw emotion that Taylor's words had stirred in him. But as the music played softly in the background, he felt the waterworks begin to spill. Taylor, ever perceptive, noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked, brushing his cheek gently with her hand. "I'm just overwhelmed," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "I've never felt anything like this before. You've made me believe in something bigger than just football, bigger than anything I've ever known. This promise, it's everything." Taylor smiled, a tear escaping from her own eye as she whispered, "It's a promise I'll keep forever, Travis. You're my home, my heart. And no matter what, this is our story, always." As they held each other close, Travis allowed himself to cry freely, the tears a mixture of joy, relief, and the understanding that this moment was something they would both carry with them for the rest of their lives.